welcome our host, Paul Dubray, and our special co-host for today, Martina Morgan.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Great. It's a special, it's very special for us to be able to have a co-host. Generally, we don't have a co-host on the shows, but I'm super delighted to have Martina here with us. She is a tribal representative and a cultural practitioner for the Kashia Pomo Band of Indians.
Hello again, my name is Martina Morgan. I am Vice Chair Emeritus and tribal practitioner and cultural, I guess I keep all the culture as much as I can from what I've learned in my generation from those older than me and generations past. It's my job to help not just my native community, but the outer community to understand Kashia people, and for the most part Pomo, because we're pretty much the same, but not all directly the same. Kashia is their own tribe or band in the Pomo nation, and we just, my job is just to interpret what our culture is to the outer community and our native communities, and being able to keep those things alive and striving and continuing. And that's me in a nutshell. That's my life.
Well, I understand that you're going to be with us throughout the afternoon, and you're going to be giving us some more insight with Kashia and stuff. And I also understand that you've come to us to set the stage and to help us get in the frame of mind with a prayer. Is that true?
Yes.
All right.
I'll stand because that's what we do. While I do my prayer, I'm going to introduce myself to the Creator, and then I'll speak in English to take care of our prayer. O yakapre, yom tanataye, kepitilushko yakapre, yahui yakapre, mikewe yahui yakapre. Grand Creator, we come before you today in this place where many are congregated, and we thank you for this time. We thank you for the traveling mercies you've given to make sure that people get here safely. We ask you that you give them the same traveling mercies as they make their destination home afterward. We thank you for this time of learning and experience. We ask you to open the minds and hearts of all these people so they take in the information and understand what it is that they're learning today. The things that we're sharing are there to hand down to the next generation. The understanding of one another's cultures, and we thank you for all those things, Creator. We ask you just to keep your hand upon us and keep your hand upon this venue right now, and keep things flowing, and help us to just be friends and understand. Oh.
Thank you very much, Martina. I really, really appreciate that. So, the Wonderland Radio Hour has come through many, many communities, and with that, we've learned an awful lot through our interviews and our time with people that we have interviewed here on the radio show, as well as out in the...
Years ago, that our people no longer were able to be on the coast. We had no land on the coast, no village on the coast. We were pushed inland. And we went to a little village, an old village site, which ended up being the home of a rancher named Charlie Hop. And that's where we lived for a very long time. And from there we moved up to where we are today, which is Kashia Rancheria. And that is 41 acres of very small living area for many people in our tribe. The only about 10 acres are livable. It's all canyon land, but we loved it all this time. It's this whole territory is the place our people have grown and lived and survived.
Right. Earlier on in the week, I had the opportunity to sit with you a little bit, and we'll go into that further on down the show as well. But when you brought up this Charlie Hop and how the reason that you were actually allowed to live on that land was quite amazing to me about how that happened. And if you would care, we could go into that later on. Or,
Okay.
Or not, but, okay.
And so in 2016, it was a big time for us. Our people, had the opportunity to purchase a land on the coast, which was our, natural territory. It was 650 acres of coastal land. It goes up into the hills, redwoods, beautiful land. There's old growth on that property. It's a land where we used to gather. And it took many hands to get that property. We wanted that property to be able to call ourselves coastal people once again, something that had been lost for us. We were Kashia people, but no longer coastal because we had no access. We weren't allowed. And now this land drops into our lap. But it was way beyond what we had. But then the community, the outer community stepped in. And so many programs came together. So many people and businesses and just, nonprofit organizations came together to help us purchase this land, which now we call home. We gather there. We live amongst the giants.
Right.
We gather there,
Right.
and it keeps us grounded in our culture.
Sure. And helps you preserve your culture
Yes.
as well, because you can now teach that forward,
Yes.
right, to the other generations that are coming up.
Yes, it helps us to keep the culture alive by being able to have that hands-on teaching, that hands-on training of what our culture is, because living in two worlds is very difficult. Being in this Western society, we have to lay our culture aside while we have to, live our life here and be able to take care of our families and work. So, it's a place where we can continue our culture and preservation of that.
Great. Well, we're about to hear from a clip. I'm sorry, we're about to hear a clip from this that speaks to that exactly.
Oh yeah, us as a tribe, but he represents many tribes within California. And so he did send a clip, so we'll have a audio of Reno right now.
Will introduce us to another protected sanctuary, the Starcross Community, a place with a history of interesting restorative practices. How have you been?
I've been fine, thank you.
Good. It was very nice to have a little bit of a chat with you earlier on prior to the show. And I'm curious to know, for our radio listening audience that doesn't know about Starcross, what is it and how did it begin?
All right. Well, I think it'll be best to start not with where Starcross is now, but with where the idea sprang. And Tolbert McCarroll was a lawyer who got tired of being a lawyer, and he began doing personal development workshops in the 60s when that was very popular. In the process of doing those workshops, two of the people who took the workshops from him also became teachers in those workshops, Marty Aguilar and Julian DeRossi. The three of them started moving toward a more spiritual path and decided that they would like to become a monastic community.
Sure.
In that process, they looked for some land, and they found land in Annapolis, 90 acres. It was an old farmstead that still had a lot of woodland on it, and in their studying of various religious practices, etc., they had become very enamored of the stewardship of the land of our indigenous peoples here along the coast, and they wanted to be able to do that at Starcross. So they purchased the land, lived in the old farmhouse, started learning to grow gardens, etc. They took in foster children in the beginning, and over the years they worked with various groups, went through a lot of red tape, as I'm sure the Kashia people know too, and were able to work with the Sonoma Land Conservancy to become a protected land. So the forest there will now be forever wild. The land will not really change. And that's kind of where they are now.
Sure.
There's more to the story, but I think
Sure,
that's
absolutely.
enough for that
Of course,
part.
there's always
Yeah.
more to the story, right?
Yes.
So what else could you tell us about the benefits of, or what's involved with Starcross?
After they were taking care of foster children, the AIDS pandemic came. And we see many parallels now, so I think you'll understand people were very worried. They weren't sure how the AIDS virus spread. People were afraid of it. And as a part of that, there were children born with AIDS because their mothers had AIDS.
Right.
And they were kind of abandoned in hospitals. They were fed, they were changed, just the basics, but people were afraid to hold them. They didn't know if they could get AIDS from them just by cuddling them.
Correct.
So they didn't live long, and they died pretty isolated, which broke the hearts of the 3 people at Starcross. And so they worked with the head of the health services for Sonoma County. He was a doctor, and he talked with them about what they had learned about AIDS or thought they knew. And he said you really could hold the children, that you needed to pass bodily fluids or exchange bodily fluids to catch it. So they went through that red tape and were able to bring in children who had AIDS.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's absolutely wonderful.
And took care of them. They became a model for a way to care for children with AIDS, so that they were loved, they had their health needs taken care of until they died.
Sure.
There are many children buried on the property at Starcross
because of them. Sure.
Yeah.
Very generous. Now, what is this that I hear about haiku? What does that have to do with the Starcross community?
Well, over the years, I mean, in the beginning it was pretty much a teaching community, and there would be workshops and things, but over the years that is haiku, because the idea of haiku is that you go out of yourself and try to become one with nature. You really pay attention to nature and let it speak to you. And so Brother Toby used to do workshops in haiku. Now he pretty much just talks with these young people if they're interested, because it's a really useful tool for getting out of yourself. It's a healing kind of process as well as a poetic process.
Sure.
And so he follows the traditional first line of 5 syllables, second line of 7 syllables, third line of 5 syllables. And so you go out in nature. You might be looking at the stars in the sky. You might just be sitting in your garden looking at a little bug or a little wildflower, or maybe your haiku moment comes from a leaf falling from a tree and doing its little dance coming down. The idea is to let whatever that is in nature kind of speak to you.
Sure.
You may have a haiku moment, you may not, but it's still a very healing process. And if you do have that haiku moment, you can write a haiku.
You can put pen to paper.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Speaking of which, do you have an example for us?
Yeah,
or several?
I happen to.
I bet you do.
Yes.
Awesome.
So Brother Toby chose some for me to share with you, and the tradition is to read the haiku once. They're quite short. To read it once, pause briefly, and then read it again. So I will do that.
Sure.
Okay. Perched on a fire plug, the raven stays very still, watching the cars pass by. Perched on a fire plug, the raven stays very still, watching the cars pass by. That one was by Toby. The branches are bare. I didn't see it happen, one leaf at a time. The branches are bare. I didn't see it happen, one leaf at a time. That was by Marty. Sweep of rain and leaves erases my winter path. Time to find new ways. Sweep of rain and leaves erases my winter path. Time to find new ways. Cliff Edwards. In the dark, still house, silent cat walks down the hall. Cold midwinter night. In the dark, still house, silent cat walks down the hall. Cold midwinter night. That's Julie. 3 ravens flying over the frosty rooftops in the day's first light. 3 ravens flying over the frosty rooftops in the day's first light. That was Brother Toby again.
Now, having read all of those, and
a morning rainbow dresses the clouds with color and then fades away. A morning rainbow dresses the clouds with color and then fades away.
fantastic. Thank you very much, Barbara. Everyone, Barbara Johannes.
Okay, folks, it wouldn't be a proper Jenner experience without hearing from the Jennerators. Take it away, Cal.
Jim Thaman on the thing over here, the saxophone. Tom Casey on keyboards. Rod Hansen on bass. Rod's our newest member, replacing our beloved Mac Day, who passed away this year. A beautiful soul that we're going to miss very much. But anyway, we're going to do with this first song, Dave's going to be belting it out, and it's dedicated to all the people who live along the coast and up in these hills around here.
This works? Oh, scary.
Well, I live on a ridgetop. Lord knows I like it just fine. Where it's windy and foggy, quiet most all the time. Well, my lawn is pine needles and my driveway is old funky dirt. And my front pathway markers of pieces of granite and church. Now when I built the house, I cut 6 trees clear out the land. But there's 30 of them all left, and you know that they're gonna stand. It's a squirrel sanctuary, and they think this woods is their home. And as long as I'm here, I make sure people leave us all alone. Now the hill that I live on is steep and the road's full of ruts. And the people who live in the flatlands think that we folks are nuts. But the ruts in my road and the cuts keep the turfs at bay. And it's lonesome and peaceful, and you know I like it that way. Well, I work in the city, and I think my job is a gas. And I know it's good for me to travel and get off of my ass. But the very best parts of each trip are the Golden Gate Bridge and the road like a snake that will lead me back home to my ridge. Whoa.
applause for the deer.
Thank you very much.
Big round of applause. We'll be back. Well, of course you guys are going to be back. Now settle down, everybody, and let's see if you can recognize this next sound.
It's a rare sight, a freestanding public phone booth. This one happens to have an unparalleled view of the Russian River mouth in Jenner, California. When's the last time you needed one of those?
Wi-Fi services to Jenner are just horrible. So we just decided to celebrate the unplugged experience.
People really slow down, they read the paper, they talk to their friends, they talk to the people sitting next to them.
It's like helping people to reconnect with nature by playing in the living environment that I grew up in. My name is Suki Waters, and I went to school here in Jenner at the one-room schoolhouse. My family's from here. My grandmother was born in the native village on Goat Rock Beach.
Suki's ancestors farmed and ranched on what is now called Penny Island. Suki maintains the family connection to the land and the estuary through her kayak rentals. And as a certified naturalist, she guides school kids through the history and flora and fauna of the river.
It's such an honor to be able to carry on the tradition of serving our community as my family has done for many generations. I consider myself a sustainability advocate. A lot of times people miss this little gem, little slice of heaven at the edge of the world.
The first thing that comes to mind is restorative. My name is Arthur Moretti. We recently purchased the Jenner Inn, myself and 3 other partners. You drive around the bend from the 116 interchange, and there's just something in the air. Maybe it's the light, maybe it's just the mix of the river and the sea. You just feel transported to a different time and place. And hospitality to me it's not just hotel. It doesn't mean just a place to sell a room to somebody. I think it's inviting someone else into our home.
Okay. Can I get some gas? Yeah, sure. Okay, just a second. Yeah, my real name is Lakbir Singh, but I go by Larry, which is, everybody knows me here. In particular, I'm basically from India. I moved to this country in 1989. Both my brothers, I am the youngest of the family, were here. And they kind of got me, sponsored me, and I came here. I lived in San Francisco, did other jobs.
Larry and his wife Naz took over the gas station, grocery, and deli in 2006. Later, they opened a small gift shop and a wine bar.
I live in Jenner, so my commute is good. And, I enjoy people. We are the only store here. At any needs, there's a gas station and a convenience store right here. People need milk, coffee, small stuff. They don't have to go to town. It's a drive. Going to Garnwood, it's a drive.
My name is Rachel Klinsky, the owner of Cafe Aquatica in Jenner.
Rachel was a customer first, then staff, and then at the age of 25, she became its sole owner.
Something I always wanted to do was work for myself and create my future on my own. So I'm really driven by that, by creativity and by learning every day, new experiences. And as far as not like being the owner of something, but just someone who's taking care and tending to the land and tending to the community. So I see myself more as a tender and steward of this place, and not so much mine, but just making sure that we keep it pristine and beautiful and as natural as possible. So that's definitely a priority of mine.
My name is Bert Rangel, and I've been the owner of the River's End for about 23 years.
How he came to be here is a very long and fascinating story.
So I noticed this winding road that meandered to the Jenner area.
With twists and turns.
And I opened up the paper, and there's a picture of the River's End for sale.
Which we won't get into here.
And so the big joke that weekend was, I'm going to buy a restaurant this weekend. This
former project manager did have the family background for the job.
My dad was a good, hard-working Mexican man that had his 2 jobs and beautiful home in Southern California. Worked hard for it. And they didn't have really hobbies. Their hobby was entertaining friends. Dad was already vacuuming the house at 8 a.m., cleaning the house, and Mom was preparing food, and they really had a good time. This community is small, smaller than you think. The people that actually live here are very engaged in the community. It's really an impressive example. There's no high-rises or buildings, it hasn't been developed. And it's thanks to the community that's been able to keep things the same. For all these visitors that come in that want to protect beauty like this, this is the case study. And it's because of a community that gets involved and that knows that their voice should be heard. The whole transition of the Russian River and the ocean. I think of life, the Russian River, you never know where it's around the next corner, and it's constantly changing. And then right when you think that it's all over, no, there's something even bigger ahead, the ocean.
Nice. Applause, everybody.
Good afternoon, neighbors. It's so nice to be welcomed by you. I do feed you on Tuesday nights, locals night, every Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
Shameless.
My wife I promised my wife that I would keep it short. It was the winter of '76. I'll move it ahead. 1998, December, is when we bought the River's End. 23 years ago. And I remember that day, it was the day one. It was a Saturday. And we were told by some of the chef, Bert, you need to be involved down the hill. There's an event going on. And I said, okay, well, sure, Steph. Let's get dressed and go down. It was very impromptu, literally changed in 5 minutes, and it was a winter, cold, rainy night. It was ugly out. And we got to this strange building, and there was the Jenner Community Club. And I said, what did I get myself into? What is this creepy place? But I walked through the door, and I found this warm, welcoming community that really, that moment I said, this is what community is about. And if it wasn't for that community, I wouldn't have the dreams that I have today, that we're accomplishing up at the River's End. I came here to Jenner to fulfill people's expectations of Jenner, the Jenner experience, and a memorable one that they'll carry on for the rest of their lives, and people do. And I'm proud to be part of that. And so the people that we get to work with day in, day out, the guys cleaning the floors of the kitchen, or cooking, preparing your food from day to night, making the beds, pulling those kayaks to the shore early morning, or baking those goodies. Let's not forget those people. And I just wanted to come up here and express my appreciation for them, because without them, I wouldn't be able to fulfill my dreams. And so let's raise our pretend glasses, and let's cheers to those hardworking folks. Thank you.
Very heartfelt, and I can see it myself in the community since we've been here just the last couple of days practicing, how much warmth and love there is here, and people that want to get involved. And that's the way a community needs to be, because no one person can create that themselves. You need, obviously, everyone's mindset and everybody happy to be with their neighbors and happy for their neighbors. So we've talked about our vibrant, active community that was fought so hard for here and is still advocating on the behalf of this beautiful gem of a place. Now, the founding members of the Jenner Archive Project are going to present a bit of that history for us so that we can learn a little bit more about Jenner and where we've come from. Can I please welcome up to the stage Olivia Yates,
Beth Thorpe, and Carol Sklenica. Ladies, I understand you have a little presentation for us.
We do.
Awesome. And who's going to start?
I'll start us off.
All right, Olivia, take it away.
While Jenner was the last town to be established on the edge of the Russian River, the area around the estuary has been occupied for thousands of years by Kashia Pomo people who came here to forage and fish.
In the 19th century, Russians arrived in Bodega Bay and then established Fort Ross. Hoping to keep ahead of Mexican colonists from the south, they hunted sea otters and farmed in Willow Creek, but left after they depleted the otter population. In 1867, the Rule family began ranching and cutting timber on the hills above the present village. Then, in 1904, A.B. Davis established a lumber mill where the Jenner Inn now stands. There were enough workers and families living in mill cottages to consider this a real town with a post office and a one-room school. In 1931, a bridge over the Russian River replaced the ferry to connect the coastal plains south of the river to the high cliffs to its north. Soon, the isolated village of Jenner became an accessible vacation spot.
The dramatic beauty of this stunning location has lured visitors who cherish its wildlife, beaches, ocean, and sunsets. It has also lured people who sought to make money from enterprises at the river mouth. During much of the 20th century, there were bitter battles between those who wanted to preserve the beauty of the area in something like a natural state and those who wanted to extract its resources or develop facilities for humans. Those who lived in or near Jenner found themselves in the middle of these battles. Olivia, who grew up in Jenner and recently completed her degree in anthropology at Berkeley, remembers that Eleanor Toohey was one of the residents who worked to keep Jenner as it was when she discovered it in the 1960s. Olivia, can you tell us something about Eleanor?
Indeed I can. Eleanor Toohey was an environmental activist and citizen scientist and amateur historian who moved here when both a grabbing mining operation and a housing development were in the works. The Jenner Community Club and about half of Jenner's residents were in favor of these plans. Eleanor, along with the other half of the Jenner residents, was not. Eleanor, in 3 words, was tenacious, meticulous, and patient. She took lots of notes, kept newspaper clips, made and kept copies of every letter sent and received and every flyer and petition concerning Jenner. She kept Jenner residents informed, and when she wasn't familiar with specifics, she researched and shared the knowledge so that the rest of us could also understand it. When the time came for letters or petitions or attendance at hearings or protests, Eleanor knew how to mobilize her neighbors. She was also curious about the history of this place. She organized a Jenner history group and spent countless additional hours writing letters to previous Jenner residents and their descendants, and scoured old books and newspapers for mentions of Jenner. In her studio near the river's end, she kept everything from her research for activism and Jenner's history. Now, we are combing through her boxes and boxes of papers to inventory and organize an archive so that future generations can learn about her and this place she loved so much. Eleanor left this world in the spring of 2019 at age 97. If she were still with us, this week would mark her 100th birthday. We would like to thank her sons, Chris and Mike, for donating all this material that she left behind, and we are also here to celebrate her and the impact she's left on this place for decades to come. One mystery about Jenner that's fascinated Eleanor was about its name. Beth, who is now vice president of the Jenner Community Club and part of our archive group, has delved into that question. What have you found out, Beth?
Jenner was named in 1904 when the post office was established. There's controversy over who the town was named for. A likely candidate is Elijah Kirkham Jenner. He was born in Vermont and came west in 1852 to operate dental practices in San Francisco and Healdsburg. He was also a gunsmith and a silversmith and was charged with counterfeiting in Wisconsin before he reached California. Elijah was granted what is now known as Penny Island by a possessory claim in 1859 for the purpose of cultivation and grazing. Others speculate that the town was named for Elijah's son, Charles Kirkham Jenner, who helped with the cattle on Penny Island who worked with the cattle on Penny Island in his teenage years and later became a lawyer and practiced in Healdsburg. Just to confuse things a bit more, another Charles Jenner, apparently no relation to the others, lived in a cabin here in the 1860s and was thought to be a writer. But according to Eleanor Toohey's digging, he was the least likely namesake of our little town. Some mysteries may never be solved, even with this magnificent invention we call the internet. We are not sure when the Jenners left the area, but in the 1920s, two brothers with the last name of Penny owned and lived on the 29-acre island. One brother drowned at sea. When the other brother became ill, he asked Joe Santos, who lived on Goat Rock Beach with his wife, if he would help take care of him and bury him on the island when he passed. Joe agreed, and in return, Richard Penny deeded the island to him. Joe built a house on the island where he and his family grew fruits and vegetables, raised dairy cattle, and sold their produce to the townsfolk of Jenner and Monterey. The Santos family lived on the Penny Island until 1948. We have his property tax bill for the year 1936, a grand total of $56.34. In 1975, the island was acquired by the State of California Department of Parks and Recreation. It has become a sanctuary for foxes, bobcat, mink, great horned and barn owls, and white and brown pelicans. The history of how the island became public land is one of the fattest files in the Jenner archive. Can you tell us more about that, Carol?
Indeed I can. Penny Island would not be here except for the activism of Eleanor Toohey and dozens of other residents who formed the Jenner Coastside Conservation Coalition in 1969. Led by Virginia Hechtman, a core group that included the still local Hebe and O'Brien families, spearheaded a statewide effort to prevent private companies from dredging out a 5-mile channel in the estuary to mine gravel to build the BART system. The plan would have destroyed the island and altered the local beaches to make a boat harbor. To carry on the battle against the dredging plan, the coalition insisted on public hearings such as the Board of Supervisors meeting, the longest in history, that lasted until 5 a.m. on the morning of April 1st, 1970. They wrote letters to people at every level of government, including President Nixon. He didn't respond, but many others supported the cause, including cartoonist Charles Schulz. The coalition's success in stopping the dredging ushered in an era of environmental activism. They established the principle that public interest should be considered in decisions about land use. Thanks to this effort, led by Jenner's fierce coastal advocates, everyone can enjoy Sonoma Coast State beaches, the Jenner Headlands, and other open spaces that surround us. The Jenner Archive Project has been supported by the Sonoma County Community Investment Program grant. We also preserve old photographs and pictures and posters from our community club and our volunteer fire department. And we plan to continue a series of oral history interviews with Jenner residents begun by the original Jenner History Group. We would love to hear from anyone who'd like to search in the archive or sit down with us for an interview. We'll be outside with birthday cake for Eleanor after the program. Thank you.
Much, ladies, for that piece of history. It was very interesting to listen to.
As a practicing poet myself, I am pleased to introduce Jenner's resident poet, R.M. Ryan. Ryan has been described by the New York Times as a writer who works at the junction of rapture and rupture. He is author of 2 novels and 3 books of poetry. His most recent collection is The Lost Roads Adventure Club, published the Louisiana State University Press, The Book of All There Is. Rick Ryan.
After all this, I'm really, can you hear me okay? Yeah. I'm really honored to be here. And my poetry, I like to figure out what I'm doing, not always successfully. And this is a poem about standing at the mouth of the Russian River. Gulls, hundreds and hundreds of them, swirling here where the river comes into the ocean. They circle around me and I turn, then turn again. A dance in the center of something. The gulls in all that white flutter like pages torn from an important book. The book of all there is, perhaps, swirling around me. If only I could touch them, I might read. But then the gulls aren't pages in a book, and I am only me, standing there, and it all gets away from me as I try and try again to say what I cannot say, getting nowhere faster than I meant, standing here dizzy and out of breath, circled by hundreds and hundreds of gulls, standing there. I'm with nothing but a handful of sky in my hands.
Thank you. Fantastic work, fantastic work. So, in true poet tradition, why don't we send him away with a little bit of finger snapping, beatnik and beret. Now, we're going to take you to an enchanted place hidden right here in plain sight.
Oh, well, Bridgehaven, pretty amazing place.
My awesome. Well done. There you go. Well, welcome. Let's hear it.
Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, good.
Time, see what's become of me. While I looked around at my possibilities, I was so hard to please. But look around now, leaves are brown, and the sky is a hazy shade of winter. See the Salvation Army band down by the riverside. I bet you'll have a better ride than what you had planned. Carry your cup in your hand. Look around, leaves are brown, and the sky is a hazy shade of winter. Thing to say, but if your hopes should pass away, then simply pretend that you can build them again. And look around now, grass is high, fields are ripe, it's the springtime of my life. Oh, seasons change with the scenery, weaving time in a tapestry. Won't you stop and remember me at any convenient time? Funny how my mind skips when I'm going through manuscripts of unpublished rhyme, drinking my vodka and lime. So look around, leaves are brown, and the sky is a hazy shade of winter. Look around, leaves are brown, there's a patch of snow on the ground. Look around, leaves are brown, there's a patch of snow on the ground.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much. I thoroughly enjoyed that. One more time. So it's come time in the show where I get to be pretty fun back there. Yeah, often. So, Martina, I watched the clip and so I've been listening to what you've had to share with us. And earlier on in the week, I don't know, I'm sure you guys don't know this, but we had the opportunity to sit out and have lunch together. And it was a great lunch. It was one of the very few hot days that we had that we sat in the sun, but for almost 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And I could listen to you all day long, giving us all the information and all the stories that you've told us during the week. And I could not pick out any one thing that I'd want to know more about than the other. So one thing that I did want to know, if you could share with us, we learned that how the Kashia are bound by tradition and history to the coast, correct?
Yes.
What are some of the cultural practices that have come from this bond that you are now able to revisit? I know we spoke a little bit about the gathering and such, but are there more of spiritual events that are spiritual things that you're now allowed to be able to practice at the shoreline or coastline?
Yes. Well, first of all, we believe in stewardship and reciprocity, which those two things go together hand in hand. But spiritually, we have 4 ceremonies, big ceremonies. We have many throughout the year, but 4 big ceremonies throughout the year. And we have our spring ceremony, and we have our summer ceremony, fall, and then we have the end of the year ceremony, which we thank Creator for everything. We open up with spring, thanking Creator for all the things that will be, and each season has their own time. But on every ceremony, we have to have the abalone on the table, the foods from the ocean that we eat, and the foods from the land that we eat. So being able to go and gather those foods is very important, and it's a way that we keep that stewardship and reciprocity together, working together hand in hand, because long before, in the beginning of time, we made a pact, we made agreements that we would always honor those animals and those plants that give their life for us to eat and keep us sustained and keep us alive and keep us just prospering.
Sure. And I think that as time has gone on, and one of the things that I have learned through living here myself, I'm a newer resident of the Lower Russian River. I've been here since 2014. But one of the things that I have never come across in my past in other areas is how many people do use the word stewardship here, and people do believe that they don't own the land, but yet they're they're protectors of the land, and they want to be able to preserve the lands like that. And when we were speaking earlier on this week, that was a very key part of the tribe, right? It was you're not owners of the land so much as you're stewards and you're protectors and you're caregivers of the land. So the possessions don't mean so much to the tribe. Is that correct?
Yes, and one of those things is that we like you said, we don't own the land. Of course, now we do.
Right.
Of course,
in
but
today's society, you
in
gotta
our
own
minds,
something.
yeah, in our culture, we don't. That word is so strange to us, so foreign to own a land. This land is here to take care of everybody, all of us, and we in return take care of it and give back to it. We never take without giving back. Especially in drought season, we take bottles of water with us, and when we gather, we feed them water. If we have any acorn powder, we feed them acorn powder. We always give back to every creature. If we know there's a place of abundance in a type of bird and they like certain things, we leave those things for them, or even little small creatures. We never take without giving back, and we always thank for everything. And one of those things is that connection is so important for our people, because we honor and we keep our promises from the beginning to the end, and it's going to be that way with every generation.
One thing that I found particularly fascinating, because I've been all over the country and I have visited many different tribal units, and so when I learned in the video or the audio segment that we had here that your tribe is not one that is assimilated, and I had learned that there. We spoke about that earlier on in the week, and I found that absolutely fascinating. And I asked you why, and it was an aha moment for me. It's because of a flag.
Yes, it's hard to say that. I mean, when you know the true history of both sides, the Russian side and the Kashia side, it's hard to find that balance, because sometimes people aren't ready to hear the full truth. But we're beginning to find this balance in true history. And a part of that is that, yes, the Russians came to have their little piece of the pie in our continent. Because they had a flag in the area, no other people would come to take our Kashia people away, our women and children, or our men. So being under the Russian flag was kind of a protection for us. It was a protection for us. And that's hard to say, because they came to colonize in some way. Right. But the one thing about the Russians is that they weren't the kind of people that took a language, took a way of life, took a culture. They just wanted you to be a part of the Russian Orthodox, and they didn't force that. But there was a lot of things untold in their end, but we have that history. Sure. And it's true, you know. But because of that Russian rule in the area, because of that flag, the Kashia people lived under. We were protected from the Spanish. We were protected from American soldiers. We were protected from all those changes in the world that were happening. You know, and we were able to keep our language, our culture, our religious ways, our traditions, and and our language was the biggest part, because that connects us to everything.
Right, and that's a great segue to my next question. The language. You told me that it was very recent. It was your great-grandmother that started writing the language, right?
Yes.
Being able to write the language, and that I found very interesting. And you have a personal desire to keep that language alive. Is that, and we had that discussion about that, and I was really interested in knowing, after I left our conversation, what is your dream, and for that language? How, in the greater good, in the best of all best, in our greatest desire, what would you like to see happen?
Well, not just me alone, but there are other people in my same generation who have this dream of a school that has opens, and once you walk through the doorway, you speak only Pomo languages, so the 7 dialects of Pomo languages, which includes Kashia. And we walk in there, and that's the only language we speak. A long time ago, before all these colonizers came, sorry for that word, but that's the word that is used. I know a lot of people don't like that word, but when they did come, before they came, we once knew all 7 dialects. All our peoples were able to speak to one another, so it wasn't uncommon for a Kashia woman to know all 7 Pomo dialects, but also know Russian, also know Spanish, and also know English. So we were experts in languages. And so to be able to have that, once again, to be able to walk through a school and be able to speak all Pomo languages, all Pomo dialects, would be a beautiful thing. And it's something that a lot of us speak about. And it's a wish, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money. And,
absolutely.
And we are so lucky as Kashia people. We are lucky that my great-grandmother, Essie Parrish, and her siblings and cousins got together with Robert Oswald, and they built our language in as an alphabet and a written language, so to say, I guess I meant to say. And so it's a beautiful thing to be able to have that. Not only that, the Berkeley School, college or university recorded them speaking all types of words. They recorded them having conversations, so we get the rhythm of a language. You could learn a language, yes, but do you know the rhythm?
Right, exactly.
That's how people know that you are not, say, Russian. You're not real Spanish. You're not real Mexican. So a rhythm is very important. So they recorded that too. So we have all of that, and that's a lot of a couple other tribes have that also. So that would be a beautiful dream for me.
Sure, and I'm sure a dream for many others within the Pomo Nation. So speaking of that, I understand we have a poet. Do we have
Well, we were supposed to have Nessa Asbel, which is one of our youth in our tribe, and I don't see her, and I don't know if she even showed up, but, sometimes it's difficult to get around off the mountain.
You're right, sometimes it's hard to get down off the mountain.
Yeah, but just in case, I did bring a small little something.
Because I understand that you're a poet as well.
Yes.
Right.
I was published in, 2 poems were published in Russia, and then in Native News, I also have one published also. So that was kind of a surprise to me.
Yeah, well, fantastic.
I just wrote it off the cuff, and I've been writing ever since I was really young.
Are we able to hear one today?
Yes.
Awesome.
So it's a really short one. Time has a way of showing you the past. History becomes a looking glass while time is in constant movement. History stands still like a time capsule waiting to be unveiled. Look into the mirror of history and find the reflection of time. Knowledge of the past makes for greater understanding of self. Lacking understanding of one's past makes for a future without a path.
Very nice. Well, I want to thank you very much for being our co-host today.
Thank you.
And I certainly hope that this is the beginning of a great friendship, and we'll be seeing each other down the line. Everyone,
thank you.
Martina Morgan. I'd like to thank the California Humanities for sponsoring this project, and to, of course, all the wonderful people again that have helped put this on. It's been a fun afternoon, or morning, I should say, and we hope to see you again. All right? Thank you. The icing on the cake, because there is really cake out there. The Jennerators.
Yeah. I want to make one quick announcement, and that is to thank Michelle Irwin for the tremendous effort. She's literally worked her butt off for this, and we want to
so kind to fill those out, good, bad, or indifferent. We want to hear from you how to improve. We want to know how great we were, of course. But on the whole, that helps us be able to give this information and give this work to other grants and other people that are willing to support this project, all right? Because we've got a lot more to come, and we certainly want to get further out the data for everybody. Thank you once again. I'm Paul Dubray.
And first we got Tommy Casey with a little swampy thing called Marie Laveau, and then we're going to do one that's more theoretical physics called What Made the Big Bang Bang? Yeah, Malcolm's singing.
Excuse me.
Where the black trees grow, there lives a voodoo lady named Laveau. She got black tattoos and a mojo road, and anybody wouldn't leave her alone. She said, "Ow!" Another man done gone. Well, she lives in the swamp in a hollow mound with a one-eyed snake.
and wondered what's going on. But why'd they find time to sing this song? Nobody knows just where we are, but I know one thing, we can play these guitars. Big Bang Bang? What made the Big Bang?